the Honest to God series with Aingeal Rose Ahonu.
You are all very, very welcome. I am Ahonu, and with me is my lovely Aingeal Rose.
People are demanding answers.
Basically exposing the truth.
For us to explore in more detail today.
This is the time period of truth being exposed, of all the unhealed stuff coming out.
So make sure you tune in. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and on our website at worldofempowerment.com.
Don't miss an episode. Hit the subscribe button now.
You are very welcome. I am Ahonu, and this is my lovely Aingeal Rose. Aingeal Rose looks a bit chilly today. She looks a bit cold, and sure indeed it is. It's below freezing point here where we are in Bend, Oregon. But inside our hearts we are warmed, and the reason is, we got a very joyful story to tell you today, and we purposely call this a joyful story because it is the box of joy is what we're calling it, the box of joy. So Aingeal Rose, I want you to just reflect back over the last few weeks and position this for us. Tell us how this all came to be.
Okay, well, first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. So back in November, some of you may know, my mom passed away, and in that whole process, my sister was the one who lived closest to her, so it was up to her to distribute the estate. And so I selected some things of my mom's that my sister sent to me. And so then we were away in California for 3 weeks. So the box had arrived while we were gone. And when we got home, I put it up in my room. And I didn't open it. I had the feeling that if I did open it, it was going to be very emotional for me. And sad, because my mom, as you know from knowing my mom, was a very unhappy person in terms of depressed and in a lot of physical pain her whole life.
Pain, yeah. And
she was in a lot of physical pain her whole life.
So we didn't want to open the box, particularly you, Aingeal Rose. You were hesitant because, in a way, and this is certainly true of me, my impression of her was that she was sad and depressed and in pain, and that's what was going to be in the box also.
Yeah, like you thought with her artifacts that you'd feel
the same sadness.
The sadness, and also, for me, being your mom, there would be a kind of finality to her life because I had reacted to a very small life insurance benefit that she had, that also that check was in our mailbox when we got home. And when I opened it up and I saw it, it just felt like such a finality, well, you're getting some money because somebody died. And it was in my face. And I
in a way,
found
too, it was like as if that was the price of her life.
And it was very small, which did not... felt like an insult in a way. Like, oh, God.
Yes.
Not that I cared about the amount for myself, but as a statement of, oh, well... It's kind of like when somebody does a lawsuit for losing somebody, a crime, or somebody got killed, and then they go to court, and then the perpetrator gets sent to jail. It's a very small compensation for the loss of the life that you just experienced.
Right. But in that same way, we're always looking at the symbolism behind things because we believe the symbols are very important. So in that way, here was this box that Aingeal Rose had put on her side of the bed in a dreadful anticipation, really, of what was going to be inside.
Well, I just kind of let it sit there.
Yeah. But it turns out that box, we opened it this morning.
And then it was a mixture of just beautiful things my mom had collected over the years that, I like too, like china creamers and little glass frogs, and stuff like that. But underneath that,
it was actually a box full of joy, is what
it really was.
Really, because
really
as we
was.
started to take things out of it
and
unwrap them, we realized that on the outer surface, on the human level that we were familiar with, there was this sadness and depression. But obviously inside her, deep in her heart, in her soul, in her being,
Right.
was all this wonder and joy
And color.
and color.
So it wasn't just, it was everything from, like I say, china, things she had collected, to bracelets and necklaces and earrings, and then underneath all that was a series of paintings she had did.
And pictures.
And I'll give you, towards the last years of my mom's life, she got into painting with acrylics, and she was in a retirement home, and so my sister, when she had shown me some of the paintings that she had gotten from Mom's apartment, said, "You want any of these?" And I said, "You just send them all to me."
Send them all,
so
yeah.
she sent them all.
Yeah.
And Ahonu and I together, we were unwrapping all these items and trinkets and being delighted with each one. But then when we got to the paintings, we were just in awe, because it's not that my mom was a fantastic artist like some people who can paint things exactly as they see them. She was more of a Picasso kind of not Picasso, because that was abstract, but
it's hard to describe.
It's kind of
in
her
some
own
ways,
little
it was
thing.
childish. In some ways,
Yeah.
the pictures are like what you'd expect from a small child. But to me, in that way, was the beauty of it, because there was an innocence that was coming
was.
out of them. Isn't that fair to say?
there was an
Yeah.
innocence and just a beautiful, you just really saw the beautiful inner being. And
Yes.
in a way you could say you saw my mom's inner child, which never got a chance to come out in this life, because
Yeah.
part of her history, real briefly, was that my brother was killed when he was 22 years old, and my mom never recovered, and she lived a life of depression and sorrow and pain ever since then. Could never reconcile it. So to look out, to see these paintings and see just how joyful and colorful and bright and happy they were, as we opened them, Ahonu put them all out in our bedroom in a row, and to just look at the whole panorama of them was just extremely happy and uplifting. And interestingly, my mother's name was Joyce. So it was such a, instead of it being a dreaded grief experience, it turned out to be a very happy experience. And I'll springboard how this relates to my mom after she passed, because I have checked on her numerous times.
Well, before you do that, and Aingeal Rose is going to bring us on a little Akashic Records journey that she went on into the planes of existence after death. But I want to just flick quickly through these pictures, because while we're on that particular subject, let's have a quick look at some of these pictures to give you an idea of that type of innocence and joy of Joyce and the color that's in them. So let's take a look at these.
And I find that interesting for me to say, because of all the Akashic readings that I've done, I've not ever seen anybody go to this place. I've seen them go to realms of angels. I've seen them go around the throne of God singing. I've seen them in healing planes. I've seen them in learning places. I've seen them recreate images of their lives they had here, in terms of a house they would have lived in, or a partner they'd be. But my mom went right to heaven, and the image was so incredibly joyful that I just laid there and cried as I was watching it. And my father was there, and so was my brother, and they were all laughing uproariously, because my mom was an extreme Catholic, and she always worried, was she going to go to heaven or purgatory? Always worried that she didn't live a life. But anyway, so here she was in this heaven kind of a place.
She must have been rightly surprised.
She was.
Because she was expecting punishment, wasn't she?
She was.
Really?
In fact, my brother still appeared as if he maybe would have been 30. My dad appeared very young as well. Not 30, but, dressed up really nicely. In fact, my mom appeared in a dress that she used to wear when we were younger, and she was very thin back then. So she appeared that way. But there was my brother, like, slapping his knee saying, "You didn't think it'd be like this, did you? You didn't think it'd be like this." And they were just laughing at the fact that here she was in this place of absolutely not being judged, but just beauty and music, and plus the joy she felt from seeing my brother again after all those years made me see, how much sorrow she actually was in on earth, and how lonely she really was for my brother and my dad. And I think I never, because my mom got to be a very heavy woman, and like I said, she was on a lot of meds for depression and pain. So you certainly wouldn't, but I understood that now as just a coat of sorrow. She was just wearing a coat of sorrow. Yeah. And, when she died, that all came off, and she got to be with my brother. So, but what I find is coming full circle, right, with this, we're seeing where she went, watching her since then also, because she visited places on earth that she always wanted to see. She, now she's in a healing place for herself. But you just never would have thought that on the outer, and I think this is important, the outer appearance of my mom was somebody who you could say was in so much pain and on so many meds and so depressed that it was hard for her to make friends. It was hard for her. She just couldn't be happy at all. Yeah. And so to see the contrast in not only where she went, but the picture she painted was a real wake-up call for us in terms of you don't know what somebody's inner life is like.
Exactly. I was going to say that it's like we know that expression, never judge a book by its cover, and in a way I have to admit that my judgment, let's call it, or my impression of her was one of sadness and depression. And this box of joy really brought it home to me about how I was so wrong, how my impressions were so wrong about her. And not only that, but also the revelations that you got in the Akashic Records was that death heretofore was something that was very sad and it was full of loss. But for her and for your brother, it seemed...
Oh, it was such a celebration.
Such a celebration.
And even though when you're left behind and you don't have parents anymore, you do go through this period where you feel like an orphan. Right. All of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm an orphan.
Right.
Okay, but, on the other hand, everybody was relieved for her because at least she'd be out of pain. But we never expected... That box was like opening an incredible Christmas present all over again.
Was, yeah.
Every little thing that was wrapped, every little piece of china, every little piece of jewelry, and then the paintings were the last, and they were, every single piece of it was such a delight. And I'm just so grateful for my sister for sending it to me as well, because they packed all the stuff up and they sent it out right away. But now I just feel like I know her at another whole level, and I see myself more in her, not so much in the joyful person, but a lot of the china she had, and she collected creamers and sugar bowls that were crystal, and I do too, and it was just such a wonderful experience. Happy is the word I have to keep saying. It was happy.
We hope that this little exercise that we're bringing to you today, this exercise of judging a book by the cover, of having preconceived ideas about things, about not seeing the bigger picture, about looking at a box with a negative expectation, for example. We hope that this learning of ours will be of help to you. And also, if you have somebody who is sad or depressed in your life, or if you indeed feel that way yourself, remember that there is this beautiful core, there is this absolutely flowery, wonderful, innocent inside, as we now know.
Yeah.
And remember that, and please, we hope it has been helpful to you. And if you need to get in touch with us about anything, you'll find us all over the web. Simply search for Ahonu, Ahonu, or Aingeal Rose, AINGEALROSE.com. We'd love to hear from you.
And blessings galore.
Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to Aingeal Rose and Ahonu on World of Empowerment Radio, your station for practical spirituality in a changing world.